Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. We're doing this seminar in English because our guests are English speakers. So we are very, very excited to bring Bettina and Per here to you all in order to explain about how great the YubiKeys are. It's the best product for MFA you can find in the world. I'm going to make a short introduction about our company for those of you that don't know. We are focused on cybersecurity solutions. We have offices in many countries like Greece, Cyprus, Malta, Romania. We have a very nice office in Dubai, a cute one in Estonia, Romania, exactly. And we have an alliance with Ingecom in Spain, Portugal, and Italy. We concentrate in two main things, that is cybersecurity and network solutions. We give all our resellers also the help of professional services if they are not certified or they need any help in order to install our products. As I said, we have different offices. We are growing and growing. We love cybersecurity very much. We are everybody in the company is a gadget lover. Myself, I am a Formula One lover too. And we distribute a lot of products that depends on the country we are talking about. But the main products for us are, of course, Yubico, Varonis, Qualys, Silpath, Kela, etc. What make a difference of Multipoint and many other distributors is our value added. We have, beside this wall, a great team of pre-sales and post-sales guys that are experts, that speak different languages, and some of them are also in Dubai and in Greece in order to support the different regions. And this is what makes the difference. We really love cybersecurity and data security, so we can help you anytime. That's all from my side. I'll pass it to Bettina, that she will explain us about Yubico and the fantastic YubiKeys. Just a second.
I think you have to give me access.
Yeah, Bettina, up to you.
Thanks, Ricardo. Right. Can you see this now?
Yeah, nice photo.
Yeah, it kind of makes you hungry. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Bettina Val. I'm the Channel Director for EMEA and APAC at Yubico. And we've also got Per Engard, who is the Director for Solutions Engineering for EMEA at Yubico on the call. So we're going to tell you a little bit about how hackers normally manage to breach accounts, what the different types of authentication methods are, and why the YubiKey is the most secure. Great to hear that Ricardo agrees that is a great technology, and we'll show you why. So I'm sure you've seen almost every single day in the news, you have new companies that pop up that have been breached. There is a huge market for hacking companies right now. Hackers have gone from being teenagers in their bedrooms hacking for fun to huge organizations that do this as a full-time job. And obviously the effects and the negative impact of these hacks are huge. If you look at someone like SolarWinds, for example, they were breached fairly recently. They've completely had to change their brand. They've stopped using the SolarWinds brand because their reputation was so tainted. Obviously, it came with a huge financial loss as well. Equifax as well, they had to pay around $575 million just in compensation to the people whose information they lost. So this is something that all companies want to avoid, but unfortunately, cyber attacks are on the rise, and we've seen a 68% increase year over year, which is absolutely huge. So why is that? Well, the number one security problem is stolen credentials, and this is what hackers use to break into these accounts. So last year, there were 5.9 billion stolen credentials that were reported. Obviously, that means that there could have been even more. These credentials can be bought on the dark web. They're typically fairly inexpensive. If this is your main line of business, it's definitely worth the investment to buy some passwords. And the vast majority of data breaches are a result of these stolen credentials being used. So as I said, there is a huge cost associated with data breaches that comes from fines, that comes from lost financial funds, that comes from lost intellectual property, also reputation damage. So roughly it's $4.2 million that each data breach can cost. Of course, this is only an estimate because the longer term impact, such as reputation damage, is quite difficult to measure. So even though passwords are not secure, we continue using them. A lot of organizations solely rely on passwords, but not only are they not secure, but they're also actually quite a big cost to organizations. So if you look at some studies around measuring how much password management and resetting passwords cost, it's actually around $70 per password, because you need someone at an IT help desk to sit there and reset passwords and go through the security processes to allow people to get back into their accounts. Of course, there is loss of productivity, and it's a huge burden on organizations. So large organizations have to budget up to $1 million per year just for password management and password resets, which is a huge amount of money. And it's important to remember that this money is not being spent on new solutions or on improving their infrastructure. This is purely to reset passwords, which are not secure anyway. So is this really worth the effort? Well, we definitely think it is not. There is a consensus that the password is dead. There is no way that that can be enough to protect our accounts, our information, our intellectual property, our money. There always needs to be another form of authentication. And there are lots of different types of authenticators. Historically, the idea was that an authenticator is either highly secure, but requires quite a lot of back-end setup and processes and typically isn't very user-friendly, such as a smart card, or that it can be quite easy to use and easy to set up, but it's not very secure, like an SMS that you get on your phone with a code. Now, the YubiKey combines the highest level of security with the best user experience. It's very easy to use, but it's also highly secure. And that's because it uses public key cryptography. It also needs a touch from a human, so you have to be there in person to authenticate. A remote hacker is not going to be able to authenticate on your behalf. So Google did a study recently where they looked at 350,000 real life hijacking attempts where hackers were trying to take over accounts, and they compared different authenticators. So all of these accounts had a second factor, but they all had different types. So what they found was that the only authenticator that prevented all of the account takeover attempts and kept the account secure in 100% of the cases was the security key. Of course, it's better to have something than to have nothing, but unfortunately, things like SMS, one-time passcodes, and secondary emails, they provide a very low level of protection. So, as we've seen quite often recently, hackers don't even have to break in. They fool users into accepting authentication prompts or putting in one-time passcodes into a fake account, into a fake page. And you might have seen even in the last few months, there were some very well-known, very large organizations that were breached, such as Twilio, Uber, AT&T. And all of these organizations actually did have a second factor. None of them purely relied on passwords. However, they were using one-time passcodes. So they were using things like SMS codes that people would receive on their mobile phones or authenticator apps. And unfortunately, these were just not good enough to protect them from account takeovers. And this is how they got hacked. So on the other hand, you might have heard that Cloudflare was also targeted with the same type of attack as the other organizations that we've seen before. And some of their employees actually fell for the phishing attempts. They clicked on the wrong link. They gave away their credentials, but they were using YubiKeys. So even though the hackers had their usernames and passwords, they then needed a YubiKey to authenticate. And of course, that is something that didn't work because the hacker remotely didn't have access to the user's YubiKey, and it's not possible for a YubiKey to authenticate into a fake website. It can only authenticate into the real website. So if the user is on the hacker's fake website, even if it looks real, the authentication is going to fail. And this is how Cloudflare avoided account takeovers, because the YubiKey basically prevented the hackers from being able to log in. They published a blog post about the details of how they are using YubiKeys. So if you want to find out more, then we can definitely share the link with you. So there are lots of different ways in which you can use YubiKeys, and there are lots of different scenarios. So here are some of the most common ones that we've been seeing a lot recently. One would be mobile restricted environments. And of course, a lot of people use mobile authenticators, and that is absolutely fine. But for some environments, it's just not an option. If you look at something like a research facility, for example, certain government facilities, even call centers, you're not allowed to have a mobile phone in there. So there needs to be an alternative authentication method. So the YubiKey is a great option for those users who are not able to use a mobile authenticator. Of course, privileged accounts are always going to be a focus. Those are the most targeted accounts. So it's also a great second extra layer of security to have a YubiKey even on top of a privileged access management solution. We also see more and more shared workstations. This could be in a hospital, for example, where healthcare workers use the same machines and they move from machine to machine to machine. With the YubiKey, they can easily log in and out, and it's a very secure solution. Obviously, they are handling very sensitive information, so the highest level of security is expected. Another example would be a retail environment. This could be a restaurant or a shop where employees have tablets that they have to log in and out of, or they're logging in and out of the tills. And of course, they want to do this quite quickly. What we've heard a lot from our retail customers is that a lot of the time, because logging in and out with passwords is quite tedious, employees just don't want to do it. So what ends up happening is that one employee logs in and then everyone just uses the same account, and it's impossible to track who did what. And of course, that's not ideal for organizations. So using the YubiKey means that it's really quick and easy for everyone to log in and out, and it's so much better for tracking activity as well as ensuring the highest level of security. So, as I've said before, the YubiKey really combines that high level of security with a brilliant user experience. It's so easy to use the YubiKey that it doesn't require much training at all when organizations roll this out to their users. So all the user has to do is insert the YubiKey and touch it to prove user presence. Or if they're using a mobile device and it has NFC, then they can tap it to the back of that device and authenticate that way. So it really takes 1 second to do that. And since everyone has lots of different devices, typically, we have a whole range of different YubiKeys, so we can cover every type of device, whether it has a USB-A or USB-C connector, or even a Lightning connector for some Apple devices. And as you've seen before, some of the YubiKeys also have NFC, which means you can tap them to mobile devices as well. So the reason we call YubiKeys a multi-factor authenticator is because they support lots of different authentication protocols. And here you can see a snapshot of what those protocols actually are. Some more legacy authentication protocols such as Oath, which is the one-time passcodes, are supported. Also, the YubiKey can act as a smart card, but it also supports the modern authentication protocols such as FIDO U2F and FIDO2. FIDO2 is the authentication protocol that we use for passwordless authentication, which you might have come across before. So since we support so many different protocols, that means that the YubiKey works with hundreds of different applications and services, and some of the technologies that Ricardo mentioned before, such as Delinea, they would work with YubiKeys. So you can combine these different solutions and you can basically secure your various applications and services with the same YubiKey. So you can have one authenticator and log into all of your different applications and services. So this is a little example of some of the applications that are supported, but there are hundreds of different ones, as you don't need a YubiKey specific type of support. It's just based on what authentication protocols these applications support. So I'm going to hand you over to Per now, who's going to show us.
I have a couple of questions, Tina, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Can you tell us a couple of words about the Fips and also the relation of Yubico with Microsoft? Many people are always asking about that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have a Fips certified range of YubiKeys. So, of course, certain customers need that for compliance. It doesn't mean that these keys are more secure, but they have gone through that Fips certification process, which is quite a robust process. And that means that anyone who has that as a requirement, we can fulfill that. It includes most of the form factors that we have are Fips certified as well. And in terms of Microsoft, I mean, we have quite a long-standing relationship with Microsoft. Yubico and Microsoft developed the FIDO2 protocol together. Microsoft is all about passwordless authentication at the moment, and that is the protocol that you need. FIDO2 is what you need to be able to do passwordless authentication. So Microsoft is a really, really good use case for YubiKeys, not just for passwordless authentication, but also for certificates. So more like the old school version of authentication that also works with Microsoft with the YubiKey. You can combine the YubiKey with things like Hello, with the Microsoft Authenticator. So there is a lot of flexibility around how you use YubiKeys with Microsoft. And the great thing is that you would manage your YubiKeys on your normal Microsoft platform, where you usually manage your users. That's where you would go in and add a YubiKey to a user's account, or decide if they have to use a YubiKey every time, or if they only have to use it for specific applications. It's all down to the admin to decide those things. There is no set rule around how to use YubiKeys, which is why customers really like this approach, because it gives them a lot of flexibility, and they can make these decisions for themselves.
Great. I think that's a winner. All yours first.
Perfect. And that is a good segue to my demo as well, because the thing I'm thinking of showing is how you can configure passwordless or FIDO2 with Azure. So it's quite easy to set it up from the beginning. So hopefully you see my screen.
Yes, we see it.
Perfect. So what you need to do is pretty much go into your Azure portal, and you can try it on the live one. It takes 5 minutes to do. And what you need to do is you go to the security tab, and shows authentication methods. And you will get up the different ones that you can use. So pretty much what you need to do is go into the FIDO one. You need to enable it. You will do probably, because you don't want to put it to all of the users in your company, you should take selected users and create a group, maybe a FIDO test group or something that you can start trying this with. And then you also need to go into configure, and you can set up, you need to have yes on both of those. And then you can also set yes on enforce key restrictions. And that is if you would like them to only use specific keys. So you have the AAUID, which is specific to different vendors of keys. So if you like to use, for example, the YubiKey 5 series, you have a specific number for that one. And then you can add it. Then the only keys that could be used to log into your Microsoft Office 365, for example, is those sort of keys. So that is pretty much the only thing you need to set up to make FIDO2 work on your Azure environment. Then, of course, you can also do certificate-based authentication, which is the new thing. Microsoft released a press release just a couple of days ago, how to use that on mobile devices as well, which is closing the gap, because normally you do certificate-based authentication only on your computer. Now you can do it on an Android device or an iOS device as well. And you do log into Office 365 through certificate-based authentication that you need to set up in Azure. This is public preview for the time being. The third thing you need to think a little bit about is temporary access pass. Because when you add a FIDO key, it is done on the user's account, which I'm going to show you later. You have to log in with a multi-factor authentication. That could be certificate-based authentication, or it could be a temporary access pass. And that is a one-time code that you give to the user that they use to log into their sign-in portal for the user and register the YubiKey. Or you can, of course, use the Microsoft Authenticator to do that as well. You should also be aware that you need a backup solution. So you should have FIDO, Microsoft Authenticator, or certificate-based authentication. You might have more of them just to have a backup solution. But another good thing that Microsoft released on Ignite is this authentication strengths. It's still in preview, but that is also something where you can choose which strength you would like to have for your users when they log in. So if you would like to have the phishing-resistant MFA solution, that is including Windows Hello, FIDO2 keys, or certificate-based authentication, then you can put that as a conditional access for your users when they log in from home or to Office 365 or something, or Teams or whatever you like. Another good thing is that you can also make a new authentication strengths method. So you could pretty much say that you would only like to have FIDO keys, for example, as the way you could log in for specific applications which you use under conditional access. I think that this is really, really good because now you can force the users a little bit more to use the phishing resistant methods like FIDO or certificate-based authentication or Windows Hello. And it's also a big step in what Microsoft and Yubico has done together. So if we also look a little bit more on users. So for example, we have some users here. Adele here has registered for different authentication methods. So you can go into each user's and look at the user to see she has a FIDO security key registered, and also OAuth, so she can use TOTP codes. And on the right side here, you can of course then view the details, or you can delete that token. So if she forgets the token or drops it or loses it in any way, the admin can delete that token, and then she needs to register a new one, which is a perfect method to stop to use it. Maybe she's quitting and you don't want her token to be used anymore. So that is something as well. There are of course also audit logs and sign-in logs that you can look at which methods she's using when she's logging in. I'm not sure if it's going to display that much today as something, but it doesn't say so much on them. You can click and get more information. And you can also have in your environment, you can also go to audit logs and sign-in logs for the whole company and see which methods different users are using to try to make them push to a different direction. Yeah, so that was all for the demo parts, the first part of the demo actually. So switching back to the presentation. So why do you think about this with FIDO and certificate-based authentication? Why is that so much better? I try to highlight this here because this is the normal way how pretty much everything is working. If you have username, password, you send that over internet, store it, hopefully encrypted or hashed or something in your database. But the hacker, if they get into your environment, they can reach to your database and grab the whole database with all the accounts. Then they take that home and use it how they like to try to crack it. And then they get all the usernames and passwords. So if we then instead talking about FIDO, it's using public key crypto, which means that you have a private key stored on your device, which is the YubiKey in this case, and you store the public key on the server. The good thing with this is that the public key is public. It doesn't matter if it's stolen. And the way when you log in is that you're using your private key to sign the request and validate it with a public key. Which means it doesn't matter if the hacker gets into the database and steals the public key databases. And then we have the other thing that you also need to think about and have some ideas about is that when we talk about passwords, that is something that is shared. It's sent over internet and is stored on the server. When we talk about PIN, think about your credit card, for example. You have a PIN to unlock your credit card. It's the same as the YubiKey. You have a PIN to unlock the YubiKey. And that is never sent over internet. That is used to your local device, your YubiKey, to unlock that. Then you also have the biometric parts of it. We have a YubiKey bio. So for convenience, you can use the fingerprint instead to do a better flow, easier of use. It's not more secure because you only have 10 fingers, and probably I will guess that you're using maximum 3 of those in each hand. So I know which one to cut off if I need to. No, just joking. But you should think about it. It's for convenience, and also you have a fallback. If you fail to use the fingerprint for 3 times, you need a PIN anyway to unlock it or register a new PIN, new fingerprint. And also remember, password is always, because they sent over internet and everything, as Bettina said, the big cost, complexity, and you have to change it on a regular basis. PIN is not in that sense. So, and we're talking about hackers and attacks. How does that happen? So pretty much what the hacker tries to do is starts to look into the company, what is the vulnerabilities, exploits, and do a lot of recon and investigation. They have a lot of time. There are companies now, you can buy credit cards online, like a e-shop thing, which also, if that doesn't work, you get your money back. And it's become an industry, and they are doing this to earn money. And of course, they're trying to do the easiest way possible. Attacking passwords is one of them. Getting evil things into the computers and be able to control the computers. And of course, they try to get into some way for a user and then to escalate their privilege to admins. And when they have admin control, they own your company. And after that, it's just a matter of time until you need to do something, pay them, or yeah, get them out of your system at least. If we're talking about phishing, this is pretty much how it's done. I will show you a video on this at the next slide. But trying to a little bit just see how done. You have a victim clicking on a link or getting an email, which is a phishing email that puts them to a fake site, which the hacker owns. And then he tries to log in to the real site and get your credentials because you write them on the fake one. And he uses that to log in, and you get an SMS or a time-based code, a mobile push, it doesn't matter, because you're going to put that into his fake site anyway, and he uses that one to get in and log you in. So that's pretty much how it is. So let's see if the video here works. This is actually a famous white hacker or ethical hacker, Rachel Toback, has done this video. And let's see, I will shift to, this is always, I'll try to click it to see if it works.
our phishing site is live. So he will put his password and two-factor code into our phishing site, and then we'll take that information to log into his company's actual admin site.
Perfect. And I have the spoofing tool ready. I'm going to spoof the IP number.
Hello?
Hi, Sean. This is Allison with IT support. We know you sometimes have trouble logging into the identity output that so I'm just calling with that easy fix.
Yeah, bring it in.
So you need to update the password so it works with the new version at home. You set to change the password as example or passwordupdate.com. It's just like your normal password change site. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, after this.
Okay, great. Let's just make sure you are getting that multi-factor authentication code and two.
And just enter it.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Sean. Thanks for solving that with me.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye. Got it. We're in. This attach method for cyber criminals trick employees into handing over passwords, two-factor codes to get access to information. And many words aren't sure how to prevent it. We want to celebrate the groups that are getting it right and protecting their organization and users by using a multi-factor authentication method that stops criminals in their tracks. When Twitter faced this attack method, they quickly did the right thing and moved to roll out YubiKey to protect the organization.
Hey, Twitter, we mandated security keys for internal MFA, not for
Can use it. People can be busy and can be distracted. In fact, 85% of cybersecurity breaches are caused just by employee mistakes. Remove the guesswork for your people at your company and ensure your employees and only your employees are the ones that with hardware security keys. It is a great match for your threat model. Here is how that attack method would have played out with you.
see it. Okay, after this.
Okay, great. Let's just make sure you are getting that two-factor code.
Oh, I don't have a code to enter here. You just upgraded YubiKey.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sean. I think our work here is done now.
Yeah, well, that's it. You find it.
Take another code.
Yeah, so that was an example on how it could be done with pretending to be IT support and then showing what could have, how it happened if they had a YubiKey, which they didn't succeed. So pretty much as the Cloudflare thing, but this was based on Twitter. So,
just a quick thing I wanted to add is that obviously in this case, the user had no idea that this was a fake call and what they were asked to do. But we've also seen recently, I'm sure everyone's come across in the news, the lapsus attacks where attackers were actually paying people to accept those MFA prompts, and they were just messaging people at large organizations saying, we'll pay you X amount of money if you just say yes when the prompt comes through on your phone. So it's turned into both an accidental, allowing hackers to get into your account, and also some people just want to make a bit of money and don't think it's such a big deal.
yeah, thank you.
There's another point that small companies or they are high-tech companies in some countries, they even don't say they're being hacked because the reputation or, the big American companies, they have to because they are in the NASDAQ, but some companies are still quiet and you suddenly see that they order 100 YubiKeys, in a rush and they want it today. So that something happened over there. but of course it's confidential.
Yeah. So I told you about, so let's do a demo again. I told you about how easy it was to set it up on Azure, on the portal. And now, how is the user experience and how does it look for the user? So I will go here just to demo. Office 365 is the easiest one to showcase this. Starting first with logging into my Office 365 site, choosing security keys as login method. You get a pop-up to ask you to verify the login. This is the one that will fail if you have a fake site. So touching the YubiKey, you will be asked to enter a PIN, which is the PIN that you have chosen to protect your private key. You enter that one, and then you need to touch the key again. And that is why this is the user presence, so that we know there's a human person sitting behind the computer. And you will be logged in this case. Oh, you didn't, but. Okay. I need to close down this one. So let's do it again. This is the good thing with demos. Never works the first time. Or maybe it was a phishing site. No, I'm just joking. So going to Office 365 again. Trying to sign in. Shows the YubiKey. Touch it to user presence, and you got signed into your website, to Office 365. This can of course be done in different ways, but also if you take view accounts instead and go into security info, here is what the user needs to do to be prepared to use YubiKey. So he needs to add the YubiKey to his account. This user has the Authenticator app and a security key, but we can also add another one, quite easy. So the only thing they need to do is press add here, choose method, security key, and add an extra one. So let's do that. I'm just gonna remove the one I have here and grab another one. So putting in a new YubiKey. Say user device, USB device, click next. And it will be redirected to a page saying I need to write my PIN. If this is a totally new one, you will have to write your PIN and also verify it. But this one is one of the ones I've used before, so I already have a PIN. I need to allow it for this site. And I need to give it a name. So I give it new YubiKey, just for the reason that you should be able to see it as well. So, and done. So now we see it added a new YubiKey here. And the good thing with this is that if we then move into the portal, let's see if I can do this in an easy way. So logging out, this was Adele. So if we sign out for Adele, yes, I want to sign out. So we, console. Try to log me in directly. So let's go to the portal. I will use my YubiKey again because I protected my Azure portal with a YubiKey for the admins. No. So I need to close this one down. Let's try it again. Portal. Sign in with the YubiKey. It shows my admin account and get into Azure Active Directory. And if we look at the user now, if you remember from the earlier demo, when we looked at authentication methods, she had one key, that one. Now she has the new one as well, the new YubiKey that she just entered. And as I as a manager, don't want her to use that one because maybe, yeah, something went wrong, I will just delete it for her. Are you sure? Yes, I will. That's simple to remove it for the user. And let's try this one again. I think I will close down the window. So doing the same thing here, but the difference with a different method. So you remembered I used FIDO2 to log in. Here is the new thing from Microsoft, using CBA instead. So if I want to sign in using CBA, certificate-based authentication, I need to write my username here. YubicoDemo.com. And next. Then it asks for my certificate. As I only have one on this device, it's quite easy. So I just click OK. I'm asked to enter a PIN here as well to log in. And I will be logged into my Office 365 homepage. The difference here is that you need to write your username in the certificate-based authentication. But in the FIDO case, you can just click or use the YubiKey directly with FIDO and it puts the username in. It's even easier with FIDO. Okay, that was all for the demos. So
right. Thank you, Per. Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that we have trained engineers in Multipoint that can help anybody of the listeners and to do all that with pleasure. And that this is a recording. We are going to send you the recording to all of you that registered, and we'll place it also in LinkedIn. So if you can see it over there too.
Yeah, and also to that point, we have a training session from Yubico actually coming up in 2 weeks' time that you can register for as well. So leaving the word to finalize this and finish it off with Bettina.
Thank you. Thanks for the demos. I think it's always so much better to see it in action. When we just say it's really easy to set up, no one believes us, but when you see it, it's quite clear. So, well, as I've said before, the reason why the YubiKey works with so many different applications and services is because it supports so many different authentication protocols. And even though the ideal scenario would be to completely get rid of passwords, to go completely passwordless, most organizations are not ready to do that overnight. A lot of organizations have legacy infrastructures that do rely on those older types of authentication methods. And that doesn't mean that they can't start using YubiKeys now, because the YubiKey supports those types of authentication methods as well, like one-time passcodes, and also the modern forms of authenticators like the FIDO2 protocol. So the YubiKey really is future-proof because you can start using it now with your existing infrastructure and continue using the same YubiKey when you're ready to potentially go passwordless. And just to summarize why Yubico is different and why Yubico is such a well-known and trusted brand in authentication, it really is because quality has always been the #1 priority. We pride ourselves on having the highest level of security. We will never compromise on that security. And part of the reason why the keys are so secure is because Yubico controls the entire supply chain. So the YubiKeys are manufactured in Sweden and the US, and there is no external influence on that supply chain. So the highest quality can be ensured. The YubiKeys are really, really sturdy, even though they look so small and delicate, but actually it's very difficult to break YubiKeys, and they're very, very long lasting, which of course is a big benefit, especially for organizations who have a large user base, and just managing YubiKeys becomes much easier if you know that they're going to work for a long time. As we've touched on before, we also have different certifications like the Fips certification. So there are various compliance tick boxes that the YubiKey can fulfill. So it's always important to understand what you're trying to do with the YubiKey, and that's when we can advise best how to use it, how to set it up, and how to roll it out to your users. As Ricardo said, we have Multipoint as our local partner who are highly knowledgeable when it comes to YubiKeys. So definitely reach out to them if you have any questions. But of course, we're also happy to help. And I think we have a few minutes left. If there are any questions now, I think we can take them in the chat box.
No, no questions. It looks that it was very clear. The demo was great.
Great. Well, if anything else comes up, any questions?
Yeah, we will take care.
Yeah, of course.
Once again, thank you very much, Bettina and Per. It was great to having you with us. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Multipoint for setting this up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.